I'm Deepa Mehta and you're watching Sharad's Lunchbox. What are my influences? They change. I mean, influences, what's great about influences is, and they should change, I think. They change from time to time. They change from a situation to a situation. But there's some that remain sort of constant. And I think the ones, besides the artistic, I can think of Satyajit Ray, the most amazing filmmaker in the world, I think, or Ozu, or the great humanitarian filmmakers that, Kurosawa, Vittorio De Sica, that have influenced me, and Mizoguchi tremendously, Bimal Roy. But more than that, I think it's my mother. My mother and my daughter. I mean, they're both sort of on either end of the spectrum. Devyani, my daughter, was born in Canada. She's half Indian and half Jewish, and she calls herself a Hindu. And my mother, who's, was born and brought up in Delhi and still lives in India and is very, and has no desire ever to move to Canada. But both of them have something in common, and that is they are both very proud of being women. And that means a lot to me. So I think those two their ethos or philosophy is what has influenced me greatly.
Swamiji says the only reason to have a sexual relationship is to have sons that will carry on the family name.
Yes, I mean, why does one do what one does? Obviously, I love making films because I love the medium. It's a medium that I feel I can use to express myself as opposed to writing or painting or even working in a bank, whatever it is. But then why I do what I do has, and it struck me recently. It isn't an epiphany that happened, yesterday, but about 4 or 5 years ago, that I have an insatiable curiosity about life, why people do what they do, why. There was, for example, there was a sentence that I read in Bapsi Sidhwa's book, Cracking India, which said, which was a question, why are all wars fought on women's bodies? And that for me became, and I started thinking about that sentence, that is it true, is it not, is it a sweeping statement? And then the more I thought about it, the more I realized the inherent truth. That women's bodies, whether they're objectified or whether, you think of the huge gang rape case in Delhi recently in December the 16th, or you think of war, and what's most accessible and what is most, worshipped as well as most defiled is a woman's body. And so I did Cracking India, which became Earth, and the same with fire. It's about like what happens. Fire began because I wanted to know if, what were the social mores, or what are the rules that women can break without getting punished. So what is that extreme? And the extreme in India was a lesbian relationship at that point. So that's how it all starts. It's about why. The big question for me is why.
Mysteriously handcuffed to history, my destiny forever chained to my country's.
Great things in store for you, my son.
It's been an amazing experience working with Salman Rushdie. I mean, I've always been a huge fan, so it was I remember the first time I met him, he'd come for the screening of Water, and I was just terrified that, what he would think about the film, because this is Salman Rushdie. I mean, he's amazing and brilliant and whatever. But luckily he liked it, and we became friends. And when we started working on Midnight's Children, there was a part of me that was slightly intimidated. I mean, my God. But the wonderful thing about Salman, the writer, the person, is his extreme generosity and his extreme respect for somebody he works with. I don't think he suffers fools gladly, but then I don't think I'm a fool either. Bollywood is like popular cinema. There's nothing wrong with it. Hollywood is also like popular cinema, but if everybody thought that the only cinema that was made in the world in the United States is Hollywood, or it has to be Man of Steel or the big blockbusters or the genre films that are action adventure. I mean, you're doing a real disservice to amazing films, independent films were made, or even alternative films that were made in Hollywood. I mean, you know, in Bollywood there's some Indian films that are made that are superb, but they're all, you know, pushed into this envelope that's called Bollywood, and I think that really doesn't do it much service. Indian cinema is secular, you know, it's all over, it's regional. There's great cinema from Maharashtra, from Bengal, from Assam, and from all over. So, but nobody ever talks about that because nobody's aware of it. And when you, especially in the West now, since it's become sort of like I feel it's a fad, you know, the way Chinese cinema like 10 years ago, everything was martial arts. What was Chinese cinema? It was martial arts or kung fu or whatever. And it's not true at all, you know. And it's the same thing. I hope we get out of it because there's so much more to Indian cinema than just Bollywood. You know, Bollywood's an important part of it, but it's like saying all literature is pulp fiction. You know, it's not fair. There's the couple of, it's, you know, you want to work with certain writers, you want to adapt certain books, you want to work with certain actors. And also, I mean, I would love to be, you know, there's some filmmakers I admire so completely and thoroughly. I mean, I would love to be an assistant to them, you know. It would be just wonderful to just hang around and bring, you know, bring coffee to Costa Rica and see how he works. I mean, you know, how does his mind work, or there's some really, and also actors. I mean, they were wonderful actors. There are a couple of Indian actors who I would be very curious about. I mean, now there's a guy called Sharad Khare who's amazing, and I'm just very curious what it would be like, what makes somebody like him, who's sort of like an Indian superstar, tick. You know, he's interesting. I was born in India and went to school there, university there. I had my first job there, which was in film. So I always thought that I would be a filmmaker, but whether my home would be in Canada, no. I had no concept. I never thought I would ever leave India. I have a very strong relationship with it. And even when I came to Canada, I thought, you know, I was young. I met a Canadian in Delhi. We got married in Delhi. I was like 21 years old, really young. And I thought, yeah, you know, let's go to Canada, check it out, and then go back. I'd never ever thought that I would stay on. And, you know, before you know it, you have a kid. Before you know it, you're divorced. Before you know it, you have joint custody, and you know, you're in a country. And I'm very happy to. It's taken years, but to say that I really love Canada, and I love what it's done for me, and I'm grateful. I really am, you know.